Welcome to the third episode of County Assembly of Uasin Gishu production. This episode will feature a debate on milk hawking.
Mr. Speaker, I want to request this County Assembly to approve this motion for the sole purpose of allowing the CEC to come up with a bill that will not only legalize but also formulate, create a formula and also regulate and promote this business. There is one problem with hawking of milk, and the challenge is sometimes you find that this milk has been maybe added some water, and if you look at what the dairy board is doing, they do not even have a secretariat whereby the consumers of this milk will go and report so that maybe an action can be taken. So we would like our county government to take up the matter and regulate and bring to this assembly a legislation so that we can actually have an overall area of operation for these vendors. Mr. Speaker, it is very embarrassing. You find a young man who is doing legal business being prosecuted for doing no harm. I mean, for doing no wrong at all. Because I would want to believe that if your quality of your milk, or maybe you've added maybe water in your milk, or maybe something else, that is when we would say you have done something wrong. But sometimes they are prosecuted for not just having a license. And if we ask a question, Mr. Speaker, the money that the dairy board collect, what is it that they do with? I want to say nothing. All they do is just buy vehicles and maybe award them allowances. Otherwise, we do not feel what they're actually doing. Mr. Speaker, if the bill comes to this house, it will be taken to the public. We will see what the public will say, and we hope that it will enhance, or it will at least support these young fellows who are fending for themselves and trying to earn a living. Mr. Speaker, Honorable Pius is a young man who is advocating for the young people. I wish at this juncture to request him to second this motion. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Honorable Pius.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, sir. I raise to second this motion brought by Honorable Singway. Mr. Speaker, it's ironical for the dairy board not to provide proper policies for the dairy products. And therefore, Mr. Speaker, a policy should be brought so that hawkers who hawk milk in town be protected as any other hawker who hawks any other commodity. Mr. Speaker, the spirit of entrepreneurship needs to be maintained in our county so that we improve the business in our county. These hawkers who deals with dairy products needs to be provided with adequate or proper equipment so that the milk being sold in the streets have good hygiene. Hence, we can prevent diseases that can be spread through unhygienic purposes. Mr. Speaker, again, milk happens to be a main commodity in our county, and therefore, our youth or even any other businessman who deals with milk needs to be provided with proper measures on how to preserve milk and time to sell to consumers. Let me finalize by saying that cooperative movement is the only way that we can also improve our dairy products, and therefore as a county, we need societies so that these farmers selling milk can also maximize their profits of their commodities. I strongly support the motion, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, Honorable Member. Honorable Members, a motion has been moved and seconded, and therefore I propose a question. Aware that milk hawking has grown and become a major source of employment and income to many residents of our county. Further, aware that the same industry has provided alternative channels for milk marketing to many dairy farmers and thus promote the economic development and empowerment to many people. Concerned that the efforts of the Kenya Dairy Board to ban milk hawking has not been successful. Further, concerned that the same board has arrested and even executed innocent milk hawkers who have tried to earn their honest living through milk hawking. Noting that this milk hawking industry is a potential employer to many people if creative and innovative ways are formulated to regulate its operations. This County Assembly urges the county government through the Department of Agriculture, Livestock Development and Fisheries to formulate and submit to this County Assembly for approval a legislative proposal bill that will, amongst other things, formalize, regulate, legalize, develop and promote the milk hawking industry in the county. Ensuing debate. Honorable Member for Ziwa.
Thank you so much, Mr. Speaker. First and foremost, Mr. Speaker, I want to say that the people doing the business are mainly the youth. And the same youth, Mr. Speaker, sir, come from our various wards, back at our villages. Mr. Speaker, sir, I remember very well during our campaign time, we had a very good promise to the young people that we will provide a good environment for business. We will provide jobs for the same youth. And Mr. Speaker, sir, when a dairy board comes up with a stringent measure that they be arrested and prosecuted, Mr. Speaker, sir, then I fail to understand the kind of environment we were promising these young fellows. Mr. Speaker, sir, I want to say, it is through such businesses that most of our families back at home will be able to finance and support their children in school. Mr. Speaker, sir, I've had an engagement with some of these business people actually hawking milk in town. And Mr. Speaker, sir, it was interesting enough that one fellow has really assisted the siblings, the brothers and sisters, to go through a school. They've been in various institutions of learning. And Mr. Speaker, sir, when I listen to someone who wants to really chase them away from the streets, then myself I want to say, instead of chasing them, it is the responsibility of this government to come up with the policies, with a bill that will regulate issues to do with hygiene. And Mr. Speaker, sir, in the same process, we must also provide a good environment for business to our young fellows. Mr. Speaker, sir, I want to say, consumers in town also. I'm one of the consumers. Now that I live in town for 5 days, then 2 days I go visit my electorates. I want to say, Mr. Speaker, sir, that not everybody in the estates there actually have the ability or the capacity to buy milk which has been processed in the shops. And I want to say, Mr. Speaker, sir, these consumers have been actually enjoying the less costly milk which has been actually brought by the same hawkers. Therefore, I want to say, Mr. Speaker, sir, me as a person representing people of Ziwa, I also have business people who come from Ziwa, hawking milk, taking milk to various hotels in town. Mr. Speaker, sir, I'm double sure that if we really stop these hawkers, then most of the hotels also will close down. And most of us here will not have a place to have tea, or rather eat in the same hotels. I therefore want to say, Mr. Speaker, sir, I support the idea that we compel the executive to give us a bill that will actually try to regulate these particular activities, but not actually harassing, arresting, and even prosecuting these young fellows who would want to earn a very honest income. Because if you want to stop them, and they'll just wait for us in the corridors in the evening, and actually we will be crying every other time that we've been robbed, our people have been robbed. And the same people who have actually known how to maybe fend for themselves, let's actually support them, provide them with the regulations so that we actually allow them to earn a living and also support their siblings and their families generally. I therefore rest my case there, and I say I'm in total support of this motion. Thank you so much, Mr. Speaker.
Ningependa kuweka wazi kwamba ninasimama kidete kuunga mkono mswada huu kwa dhati ambao umeletwa na kiranja wa bunge hii ya Uasin Gishu County, Mheshimiwa Singoe. Mheshimiwa Spika, kwanza kabisa nataka ijulikane wazi kwamba si kusema tu hili jambo la kuuza maziwa kwa vijana wetu, na sio vijana peke yake, mpaka wazee, limeweza kusimamisha familia nyingi. Hata najua waheshimiwa wengine wakifungua roho zao kabla wakuja hapa, pengine kuna wale walibarikiwa juu ni baraka kufanya kazi hii. Hongera vijana wetu ambao wamekuwa wakiuza maziwa. Lakini kama vile hoja hii imekuja, hii idara ambao wamekuwa wakisimamia maneno ya maziwa, kwa Kiingereza Dairy Board, wamekuwa hawasaidii mwananchi, hawasaidii mkulima, wanajifaidi wao wenyewe. Pia hawasaidii mnunuzi wa maziwa hii, kwa sababu maziwa, wakati kuna maziwa mengi, hasa wakati huu maziwa ni nzuri, lakini wakati wa jua kuko na wakarabati, wanaongeza maji kwenye maziwa, wanaweka blue band, na hiyo si sawa. Lakini tukikuwa na sheria ambayo inaongoza jambo hili, mkulima atakuwa sawa, mwenye kuuza atakuwa sawa, mwenye kununua atakuwa sawa, na nchi yetu itakuwa. Kwa hivyo Mheshimiwa Spika, jambo hili limekuja kwa wakati, na ndiposa serikali kuu na katiba mpya ikaona ni vyema tuwe na bunge za kaunti ili wakajadili mambo yanayowahusu. Kwa hivyo Mheshimiwa Spika, jambo hili ni la dharura na ninaliunga mkono kwa dhati, kwa sababu mimi ambao ni mjumbe ambao naongoza Langas Ward, ambao ni mji wa mabanda. Mji wa mabanda kwa Kiingereza wanaita slum area. Ingawaje wataweza kudharauliwa, lakini sisi tunaweza kudumisha ama tunaweza kuangalia watu, vijana kutoka Kapsaret na kwingine wanaweza kupata ajira, kwa sababu wanaleta maziwa kwetu, tunanunua, tunasikia mzuri, na wao wanarudi na pesa. Kwa hivyo Mheshimiwa Spika, tunapoona Dairy Board wakisangaisha hawa vijana pasipo sababu, hiyo sio kujenga nchi, hiyo ni kubomoa nchi. Kwa hivyo wacha tuishi kisasa, tuseme walikuwa wamefika hapi, na tuweze kuboresha kutoka pale. Na hiyo itawezekana tu idara husika, kama vile imenakiliwa katika hoja hii, watakapo keti chini wakaweza kuita wale Dairy Board, na mahali nia waliokuwa naye wakaiongezea na kuleta ikiwa sheria kwa sisi kupitisha, ili mkulima akanufaike, mwenye kuuza maziwa haya akiwa kijana anufaike, na mwenye kununua pia akanufaike, kwa sababu maslahi yake yatachungwa, kwa sababu wengi watachangia. Nataka niseme nimefurahi sana wakati ambako nimeona kiranja wa bunge hili ameona kuna vijana wanaochuuza maziwa kwa sababu ya kujimudu maisha. Tunapojadili hoja hii, tukumbuke kuna wale wachuuzi wa mjini, sitasema kwa kujificha, wachuuzi ambao wanaitwa hawkers, ambao kila siku tumekuwa tukiwaona ni kero, ni kama hawa. Lakini kwa sababu leo ni kwa sababu ya maziwa, tunapojadili ya vijana wetu kwa sababu ni wetu, tujue pia kuna vijana wa wengine wanafanya uchuuzi si wa maziwa mbali ni wa mambo mengine. Jambo kile kitu ambao tu tungefanya.
Point of order. What is out of order, Honorable Barten?
Mr. Speaker, I need your indulgence. And could the honorable member substantiate the meaning by wale wa wengine?
Can you be able to substantiate that, Honorable Member?
Asante. Na kama lugha yangu imeweza kuenenda, naweza kuiondoa, lakini nilimaanisha hapa mjini kuna wachuuzi sio wa maziwa. Mara nyingi tumeona wanakosa, lakini nasema hivi pia kwa sababu sitaki kuchanganya maji na unga. Hapa tunaongea maziwa. Basi yule chairman ama yule mwenyekiti anayesimamia kamati ya uchuuzi ama ya trade, pia naye wakae kama vile wazo ile, tufikirie hawa nao watafanywaje pasipo kutukera katika jina la Yesu. Ninataka kusimamia pale na kusema hoja hili imekuja kwa wakati. Mungu abariki aliyeleta hili na kwa kujali. Kuleta ajira, sio tu wapeleke katika factory, sio tu wapeleke kwa governor waandike majina. Hapana, mimi mwenyewe asubuhi kabla nifike hapa, Mheshimiwa Speaker, ninauzia wakulima zaidi ya lita 100 ya maziwa. Mimi mwenyewe nikipima. Asante Mheshimiwa Speaker.
What is out of order, Honorable Member for Kipkenyu?
Mr. Speaker, you know, I'm wondering, Mr. Speaker, as the best business is being transacted in this house, Mr. Speaker, an honorable member, a full honorable member, full budget chairman, Mr. Speaker, is concentrating on reading the newspaper, Mr. Speaker. Is he in order, Mr. Speaker? Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you for that concern, Honorable Member. You know the rules of engagement and what we are supposed to have in these chambers, Honorable Member. You are not allowed to read any publication, either a newspaper or a Bible or any other storybook. Proceed as you conclude.
Asante Mheshimiwa Speaker. Alikuwa amesimama kwa hoja ya nidhamu na nilikuwa na uoga sana kwamba inanihusu, lakini kumbe ni kuleta nyumba hii kwa heshima yake. Kwa hivyo naomba niketi na kusema ninaunga mkono hoja ile kwa dhati. Asante Mheshimiwa Speaker.
Honorable Chief,
is in support of this motion that the county government comes up with the formulations and a bill to monitor, or rather to streamline the operations of the hawkers in this county, Mr. Speaker. Especially the subject matter here is the milk hawking business, Mr. Speaker. As we look into this motion, Mr. Speaker, is that we have two fronts, Mr. Speaker, sir. The main subject of the dairy board, Mr. Speaker, was to do what we call the quality control on milk, Mr. Speaker, and the milk vendors. Mr. Speaker, sir, the whole idea by the dairy board has turned up to be a revenue collection that is not submitted either to the county government or to the people or the farmers of this county, Mr. Speaker, sir. In this respect, Mr. Speaker, sir, I highly appreciate the motion that is brought by the honorable member so that we can ventilate and the county government and the relevant ministry come up with a bill that will be approved by this house to regulate the same so that we can have quality control on the kind of milk that is being sold in this town and the Uasin Gishu county at large, and also on licensing of the people who are supposed to handle the milk, Mr. Speaker, sir. I wonder, Mr. Speaker, sir, if the honorable member from Langas has gone through the
health department to be ascertained to be selling milk in the morning, Mr. Speaker, sir. And I wonder if he has a certificate to that effect. That is a commodity that is very perishable and sensitive enough that the handler must be subjected to some health exercise and given a certification to show that he or she can handle the business. Mr. Speaker, sir, the dairy board has failed us seriously, and in that respect, I am urging this House today to assent to pass this motion so that we can have proper regulations and that can enable our youth to do the business of milk hawking. Mr. Speaker, sir, we know the handling of milk for 1 hour. Mr. Speaker, sir, a fresh milk from a cow, 1 hour, will have lost its taste. I'm urging, Mr. Speaker, sir, that when the regulations comes, we ventilate into it that when those coolers are available, the coolers are given to associations being managed by our youth. I'm supporting this motion strongly, Mr. Speaker, sir, and as I said, that we want to give this business to our youth, give this youth a clean business, Mr. Speaker, sir.
Speaker, sir, I also rise in support of this motion. It's a very noble motion. Today, I think when I'll go home, I'll get good sleep. That, Mr. Speaker, this House, we are waking up to remember the people that brought us into this House, and I'm happy to see our whip bringing such a noble motion. Mr. Speaker, sir, as we look for the mechanism for the regulations to come from the other end on equally the same, there are other people who are forgotten too, that we have. The border people, the people that are doing hawking in town, to be shown the stations that they are supposed to do that business at. It's not only the youth that need this job. The people living with disability, people we forgot that they existed in this world, also to be considered. In what way can they also benefit for us being in this House, to come up with something for them, the women, the people, the elderly people, also to be included. I thank the mover of this motion once again. Now, as members of County Assembly, we are bringing motions that are helping the people that brought us into this House.
Honorable Barteng.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I rise to support the motion and pass my appreciation to the mover. Mr. Speaker, with the 63% unemployment in this country, it is very ironical for the Kenya Dairy Board to have a lot of sanctions on the dairy business. Mr. Speaker, in banning the hawking business of milk without providing alternative markets or solutions for the youth who are doing this business is just going against the free market philosophies, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, in free market it is determined by demand and supply. And Mr. Speaker, the Kenya Dairy Board are highlighting only one item of hygiene and safety to ban the whole issue of milk hawking. Mr. Speaker, it is very important for us to have our own legislation. Maybe we will invite, or the drafters of the bill will invite the board so that they can share and have something good for us to deliberate in this House, to have our youth and those people who are engaged in that business do a very nice business, Mr. Speaker.
As of that opinion say aye. Aye. Those of the contrary opinion say nay.
Nay.
The ayes have it, honorable members, and a communication will be done to the relevant department, particularly Department on Agriculture, Livestock, Fisheries, and Development to formulate regulations. Honorable members, we still have a window over the same regulations through either our public participation and contribution within our chamber.
Welcome, Mr. Speaker. What is a finance bill?
A finance bill is originated from the county executive, because the county executive is the one which proposes to collect local revenue. So the finance bill will be proposed by the county executive through the county executive committee member for finance. Then it is submitted to the county assembly, which is a people's representative, for purposes of consideration as to its legality, constitutionality, fairness, and to ensure that it is in consonant with the general principles of taxation before the county assembly passes it. And once it is passed, it becomes law that is enforceable, and the county executive committee member for finance is given an opportunity to decide when to operationalize a finance bill. Mostly the tradition has been that a finance bill is operationalized in the first month of a calendar year, which means 1st of January every year.
How is finance bill important to the public?
Once it is operationalized, then fees and charges and levies and fines that will be levied by a county government would change in accordance with the provisions of a finance bill.
What does finance bill entail?
It becomes law once assented. It is a bill like any other. Once approved and passed by a county assembly, it is submitted to the county governor for purposes of assent. Once the governor has assented to the finance bill, it will be sent for gazettement in the Kenya Gazette by the national printers. Once it is printed, it is law and it is enforceable. It becomes a law within a county government.
What becomes to the finance bill after it has been ascended by the governor?
Every financial year that we have existed as county government, we have had a finance bill which has been passed and it became law. For instance, I will tell you, we have the 2013-2014 Uasin Gishu County Finance Act. Now that it was assented to, it became an act. We also have 2014-2015 Finance Act. We now have in the county assembly the 2015-2016 finance bill, which is under consideration at the committee level. It has already gone through first reading. Then it was taken for public participation, where the public is called upon to give their views on the various charges that the county government intends to charge within the next financial year, or rather within the next calendar year.
Can finance bill be amended?
As I said earlier, finance bill would entail such provisions as provisions regarding the amount of money to be charged on single business licenses, construction licenses, approval of buildings, approval of private institutions like schools, and quite a number of charges. A finance bill, just like any other bill, can be amended at any stage before it is passed into law. That means from the time it is introduced to the county assembly as a bill in the first reading, it can be amended at that particular stage of second reading, which is the committee stage, or before the third reading,
which is the final pronouncement that it has been passed. Thereafter, when assented to by the governor, it becomes law. And any law can be amended by an amendment bill. So a finance bill can be amended anytime, so long as good reasons have been shown that it should be amended for a given purpose. Then the amendment proposal will come either from the county executive or even from the county assembly, or from members of public through a member of county assembly, or even from a lobby group who have an interest and feel that charges which have been put, or rather placed, fixed, are high and perhaps not fair to the economy, not fair to the people who are paying. Then it can be amended through introduction into the House of an amendment bill to amend that particular finance bill. An amendment bill will go through the various stages of passing of a bill. That is first reading, second reading, then committee stage, third reading. Once passed, it will automatically have amended the principal finance bill.